Hi guys, got a request from Bryce's random channel for a build video for the gliders I've been using for my top or bottom dimples series, where I'm trying to see whether the dimples on this pizza tray affect the flight, if I have them on the top of the wing or the bottom of the wing. Now, I've done version 1 and version 2. I hadn't intended to do version 3, but being as Bryce has actually asked for a build video, I thought I might do one. So the first thing we need to do is explain that I've run out of these pizza trays that have got dimples on them. I've got one, but the other one doesn't have any dimples at all. So this won't be a true comparison. I'll still do one with the dimples on the top because that appears to be improving the flights. I've done a fair bit of investigation or research on the subject, and I think the dimples are acting as vortex generators, but I'm not going to try and go into detail. Somebody else can look that up. I've put a couple of videos in the playlist associated with this series that do talk about vortex generators. There's even a radio controlled aeroplane that somebody's put together where he's testing vortex generators, and he actually uses a sheet of golf ball dimples to demonstrate, which is very similar to this. Anyway, back to the build. The first problem you have with something like this is finding the center line. So what I've done is I've chosen the point there, this is the one with the dimples on, and followed the line down to the other end and put a line there and there. And I've marked the same position on the other disc. Those line up at the moment, so the plan is turn that over and then see if they still line up, and they don't. They're slightly out of line. So in theory, somewhere between the two should be the true centre. Does that make any sense? Well, that's what I'm doing anyway. So, from that line to that line should be the centre line, which is more or less along that line of dimples. Lost me lines, yeah. So on that one, it's going to be from there to there. Why is the centre line important? Well, you want to know where to put the wooden stick that I'm going to use as the fuselage. And you really want that down the middle so that the wings on either side are the same size. Oh, there is another problem with this version of the pizza tray. If you look along it, it's concave or convex, depending on which way you look at it. Concave, it dishes, or convex, it's got a bit of a lump in the middle. But I'm hoping that when I glue the stick to it, that's going to straighten it out. So, next thing is to decide on version 1, I drew a line about there somewhere and folded the tips up so we had tip dihedral. On version 2, I drew it a bit further in so we had more tip dihedral. So on version 3, I'm thinking of making it even further in. In fact, I might make it like that. So that's one side. That's the other side. Now, let me think about that. That might be too close together. Simply because I use the brick as a weight to hold things still. Oh no, that'll be alright, I can get the brick in that way up. It's one of my pavias from when I had the front garden changed to pavias for putting the car in. So we'll do the same with this one. Right, next thing, these bits of wood. On version 1 I was using the stick that came with a November the 5th rocket that had landed in our garden, and it was slightly thinner than this. Version 2 I had to go and buy some wooden dowel, which is what this is. This is 6mm square. It's way bigger than we really need, but when I was doing the build, the only purpose of building the aeroplane was to compare the two together, not to get a long flight out of it. So I've got 3 meters of this. Only cost about £1. So I'm going to glue that on there in a minute. It needs to be longer than the pizza tray, because at the back end you want something to get hold of, because this is Catapult launch and you don't really want to grip the foam, you want to be able to grip something back here. So that's why the back end overlaps. Then at the front end we need a hook. So these are some random bits of plywood left over from some wooden kits that I had, and I've cut them so they're both identical, and they've got the hook on there for the rubber band to go on. So I will glue them. In fact, I'll glue them like that. Easier to see from that side. So we've actually got a bit sticking up. That's just a convenient place for me to put the what do we call it? Modelling clay for the nose weight, because these need a fair bit of nose weight, because otherwise they tend to be tail heavy. So that's just a convenient place to be able to stick the putty, clay, whatever you want to call it. So I'll glue them onto there. I use proper wood glue for that, but I'm sure you could use super glue and get it done in a couple of minutes. I'll use wood glue and leave it overnight clamped together. This we need to better if you've got a metal ruler. You need to put it along the line that you've just marked and push it in really hard. I'll go and get a metal ruler because we want to make a fold in there so we can actually fold the wings up. Right, steel ruler. I'll push that in hard, so help it to fold up. Doesn't matter if it cracks because we're actually going to put glue along it. If I do that way round, we can bend it up again. There we go. So that's going to be our dihedral, and to strengthen it I use this glue, which is craft glue. It's acrylic. Again, it takes about a day to dry, or certainly overnight. So what we'll do, let's make sure that's up there nicely. Another thing about having the dihedral break in it like that is that will help with the fact that this one's got that dish in the middle. That should actually make it flat, especially when I put the brick on top to hold it still. We hold that still like that, and then we put something under each side to give us the dihedral. Yeah, something like that. What's that height? That's about 2 inches dihedral. So I'll position them there under each wing, and then run a layer of glue along there. When that's dried, I'll turn it over and run glue along the crack there. I'll do the same with this one. This one we want the dimples on the top. Must be a slightly different foam because that one hasn't cracked yet. Right, I'll set those up with the glue. I've got the line there, glue. Oh, I've changed dominoes, those other ones were too slippery. Right, fold that up, domino, brick, domino. That's a bit annoying, I've got the edge of that brick in it, and I'll glue it down, we don't want that. I said there was a problem with the gap. Let's try that a bit more carefully. Right, that's better. Domino, domino. Okay, I'll do the same with this one. Let's put the brick in the middle first this time. Okay. Got these too close together. Right, so that's that. We'll leave that overnight. before you actually glue these wooden sticks down, it's worth just having a look along them to see if they are curved in any direction. And if they are curved, you want to decide whether you can use that to your advantage or not. In the case of that one, where there's a natural curve to the foam, I should try and make sure that this will counteract that foam, the curve on the foam, if that makes any sense. Right, my wood glue is a little bit old and a little bit thick, so right, that's as far as we can go tonight. So if you use different glues that dry quicker, then you could get it all done in a couple of hours. I mean, you could use hot glue along here. The only thing is, if you take it out in the sun, hot glue does actually go soft. So I'm using this acrylic. Takes a few hours to dry. When that's happened, I'll turn those over and put a layer along the back of those cracks, and then I'll glue the sticks onto the planes using the same acrylic. Good morning, guys. I left this overnight. So, yeah, there we are, that's the acrylic glue. So that's dried. Same on that one. So what we'll do now is I'll put a layer of the glue along the back. This one hasn't split, so I'll just put a layer over it anyway. And this one did split, so I'll try and get the glue into the split. And then these are our fuselage bodies, sticks with the hooks on the end, and I used wood glue to glue them on. So they're ready. But what I'll do first is run the glue along. I could probably glue them on. Yeah, I'll have to think about that. Get the right way up. Now what I normally do is I cut a bit off the back. Because I lined it up with where the dihedral break was. But because I've got these so close together, the centre section's so narrow, there isn't very much to cut off the back, so there isn't much to get hold of with the tail there. Yeah, I didn't think that through as much as I should have done. Because I like a little bit more sticking out the back so I can grip it when I'm doing the catapult launch. Because I could just cut a little curve out there, that'll give me a bit more space. That'll look quite pretty as well. Because I also want a little bit of area there for trimming as well. I can trim there instead, I suppose. Yeah, thinking as I go along here, as you can probably tell. Yeah. Let's put the glue along the back. I'm being pretty generous with it. So you want it to go into the crack there. Postman's just arrived. I don't know if you heard that in the background. Mail dropping through the letterbox. Fair bit left over there. Don't waste it. I use this acrylic glue quite a lot now. I found it more or less by accident. Poundland was selling it, so I bought it for £1, obviously, and then I found a craft store was selling it for, I think it was 99p, so I could get it a penny cheaper. Alright, well, that'll do, that's all I'm doing. It just puts a layer on the back, it just gives it a bit of extra strength. So we'll leave that for the day to dry. So I could go ahead and fit these on. I'll just go and check what the mailman's delivered, postman. I've just been pondering this idea about my fuselage or sticks being a bit short on the back, and I'm going to take the easy option. I'm going to cut a bit off the back of both planes, and then that will give me a nice bit to get hold of for launching. So I'll leave that glue to finish drying, and then I'll cut those off. Glue's still a bit tacky. should be able to get these in place. I put a mark on the end so I've got enough to grip. Marked at the same position on both of them. Make sure you have the hook on the bottom, which is the top as we look at it here, otherwise you'll have problems. Got to be that way up. I have glued them the wrong way up before now. Anybody notice that? I said I'd put them on the wrong way up, and I just did. Brilliant. Wipe that clean again. Right, hook pointing this way. Right, see if we can get it right on this one. Hook pointing this way. All right. This is the foam tray that got the concave and convex shape to it. So I've had to put a bit more weight on it to hold the stick flat while it dries. I had to put a couple of spacers under it either side to stop the bricks turning over. But hopefully when that's dry that should hold the foam flat. We've been out for the day, so hopefully this will all have dried. Okay, that one looks okay. That one looks okay. Next question is, are we going to fit a rudder or a fin? Now, there isn't enough left from what we've cut off to make the fin. Actually, I say there isn't. You could cut that around and sort of make it into a fin. a little bit low really. It would be a challenge to make a reasonable sized fin out of that, but I do have a bit of another plate left over, so I think I'll just cut a couple of fins out of that. That one's got a bit of a curve to it, but yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll just cut us a fin, rudder, fin, whatever you want to call it. Cutting board. About 4 inches. Be about there somewhere. Okay, that should do. Glue them on there. A little bit big actually. We'll go with that. It's probably a little bit bigger than it needs to be. Just curve the back off. Yep, that'll do. Glue them on. Right, might need some pins to hold them still while they dry. Right, got some pins. It's a bit rough that. Right, try and make sure it's pretty well vertical. If you put pins through like this, it's best that they don't go in the glue, because then you can pull them out again easily afterwards. If you glue them in place, it's not a good idea. Right, so those have got to dry now. Morning guys, another day. Hopefully this will all be glued on nice and tight. Take the pins out. And if you manage to avoid the glue with the pins, then the pins will come out easily. So what we want now is to put some, well, I'm using plasticine because I've got lots of it, any sort of modelling clay or something. No idea where the centre of gravity ought to be, and I have found that when I set it so it's just right so it glides nicely in my back garden, when I use the Catapult launch it tends to dive. And I actually end up having to move the centre of gravity back, take weight off, for it to climb. Or at least that was in version 1 and version 2. So where are we at the moment? Centre of gravity at the moment is nearly halfway back. I shall move it quite a way forwards to begin with. Yeah, that's about a third of the way back. These are basically, I suppose you could call them delta shapes, so you could look up where the centre of gravity ought to be on a delta. Anyway, I'll go and open the doors and we'll throw it across the garden. So this is just test glides. This one's got the dimples on the top. And this one's got the dimples on the bottom. Weight forwards a bit. Bit of wind. Obviously moved the centre of gravity too far forwards on this one. Let's take a little bit of weight off. Well, again, the one with the dimples seems more stable. But that's with no other trimming at the moment. When we actually try Catapult launch, I'll have to do quite a bit of trimming. Right, so that's trimmed for gliding in the garden, which will be quite different to the trimming for Catapult launch. But we're ready now for no dimples and top Dimples. We'll just check the weight. Right, top Dimples is coming in at 22 grams with that nose weight on it. Bottom Dimples coming in at 24 grams with that nose weight on it. But the actual flying weight may be a little bit different when we trim them. We will see.
Hey, thanks for watching. There's plenty of videos on my main channel with more added daily, so don't forget to subscribe and enable the notifications to keep you up to date with my new releases. You can help keep my channel running by donating $1 on Patreon to buy me coffee. You can always find more information in the video description. Thanks again for watching.